Okay, hi, I am Dr. Scott McClanahan, and I'm the Director of Advanced Academics for Waco ISD. Tonight we are looking at how to get into college, the college process, and how to go about applying. Our goal tonight is to increase the understanding of the steps required to transition from high school to post-secondary education, to find programs of interest, and to complete the application process. Our essential questions: what are the steps to choose a college preparation, a college program area of study, and a good preparation for the career that you're interested in? And what are the important processes to consider as you start to apply to college? And how do you know if you're on track? What material do you need in the process? And where can you get help? And so I have brought along my colleague, Ms. Shantae Reed. She is the College and Career Readiness Counselor at Waco High. And Ms. Brittany Davis, the Academic Advisor from University High, will be joining us in just a little bit. As I said, I'm Scott McClanahan. This is Ms. Ashley Duncan. She is the Assistant Director of Advanced Academics. Ms. Brittany Davis will be here from University High. Ms. Shantae Reed is with us. And then over to our side, we have Ms. Samantha Smith. She is the Administrative Assistant for Advanced Academics. And if you ever need help from our department, she is the person that you would want to call because she can route you to the right person to help answer your questions. So, some facts from the college process. First, there is no centralized admissions process. So while we have moved toward having a common application for a number of schools in the United States, that has still not been accepted for all schools. So here in Texas, if you're going to apply to the University of Texas, you cannot use the National Common Application, which Harvard uses or Vanderbilt uses, University of Southern California. We have our own application here in Texas. But there are also individual schools like the University of Arkansas or the University of Georgia that still use their own web-based program. So you actually have to go to their college website and apply through their college website. Students can apply to as many universities as they wish. So as long as the student is willing to do the requirements of the application, do the number of essays that they ask, answer the short answer questions, pay the application fee, they can actually apply to as many colleges as they wish to apply to. Many colleges have varying deadlines. I am a member of the National Association of College Admissions Counselors, and we have a governing document that governs most admissions departments in the United States, and that says that the first application deadline for any college cannot be earlier than October 15th. So the majority of the deadlines will be October 15th, November 1st, December 1st, January 1st. And so we kind of look at those as being our big hump days when we see most of our students scurrying around to get their admissions materials together. Early decision. So other than the regular application, many colleges will offer the opportunity to apply early decision or early action. And a lot of students are not really familiar with those terms. So early decision is an application that a student would want to file with a college of first choice. So if they know that they want to go to a specific college and they think that it might be a stretch for them to get in, then they might want to file an early decision application, because what that shows the college is that they are your first choice. And what that application is actually telling them is that you agree that if they admit you, that you will withdraw all of your other applications from other universities and you will enroll at that college. And they actually require that parents sign a statement to that effect, that if your child is admitted, that you will put the deposit down for the first semester of tuition. Now, early action, on the other hand, what an early action application is colleges will have a little pool of applications that come in early, and they will agree to look at those first. So that it's kind of like the preview pile. And at that point, they have three decisions that they can make. They can accept the student. They can do what's called a deferral. So what they will do is they will send a letter to the student and say, We are going to consider your application when we get the regular applications in because we want to see how you fit into the larger pool of applicants. Or they can deny the student. So if they look at them from the first time and say, yeah, this isn't really a kid that's going to work with what we're looking for, they'll deny them. Okay, so there's nothing binding about it. It's just a way for a student to get their application looked at in the first round. Okay, U.S. colleges employ a holistic admissions process. So it used to be that we knew exactly what was going to be weighted in what way, and what was going to carry the most weight typically was going to be test scores. And then following that would be a student's grade point average. And then we would go down the line and we would look at things like their extracurricular activities, their essays, but we knew that the test scores really carried the largest weight. Well, what we have seen in the last 3 years is a movement of more and more schools toward a test-free admission, where they actually do not require test scores, and they are looking more holistically. Well, as that has gone on, more and more colleges have moved to this holistic process, especially as the SAT has been revised and they're not quite sure what those scores mean. They are looking more broadly at what does a student have to bring to the table. So we will have things like their academics, so their course grades, the rigor of the courses that they took, and their ACT or SAT. Those are kind of lumped as their academic picture. And so it is just as important for a student to do well on a standardized test as for them to show a college, I chose the most rigorous offerings that were given to prepare myself to come to your school. So they're not holding one of those more important than the other one. Outside of academics, we move to the student's character. So what they're really looking at is recommendation letters that the students get from their counselor or from their teachers, their personal statements or essays that they include with their application. And I just had a college essay writing workshop 2 weeks ago, and one of the things that I really tried to make clear to the students is that they are not writing a college essay, an essay for college. They are writing a college essay, and that's two very different things. They're not writing this elevated paper with this very academic voice to it. They are supposed to write something that is holding a conversation with the admissions department so that they really get to know who the student is and what their personality is like so that they can determine if they would be a good fit with their existing college community. And then the last one we have is our extracurricular. What else does the student do other than academics? Are they in clubs? Are they in sports? Do they participate in leadership roles? Do they do community service? And that has really gained more and more standing in the admissions process because they're looking for a very diverse community and they want to make sure that they are bringing students in that are really going to add to that university environment. And then U.S. colleges offer a variety of majors. So we really have seen in the last 30 years, colleges move to offering more and more specific majors, where I was actually just on a college site with a student the other day, and we were going down the list. And whereas a college might have had Russian previously as a major, underneath there, it was Russian and philosophy, Russian and literature, Russian and international relations. And so what we have found is that there's lots of opportunities for kids to do a lot of different things, and they really want to be familiar with all of those majors that are accessible to them. And then finally, depending on the school, you can really look for an undecided major if you're really not sure what you want to do. Sometimes they'll ask you to identify a general area, like I'm business undecided. But other schools, they will allow you to come in and just say undecided so that you can start to take your core university requirements and as you're taking them, find one that you really are engaged by before you declare what your major is. And they'll usually let you hold on to that status throughout sophomore year, and then they ask you to declare by that point. Okay, so some common myths that typically go around, especially with parents, because I know I've been out of applying for college for a while, but then I get to do it with my own children and things have changed. And so I'm kind of clinging on to how it was when I went through. And those things aren't always true. So the first one, it's a seller's market. And that's really not true. What we're really looking at is that it is really a joint agreement between both the college and the student. It is just as important for the college to think that they are the right place for the student as it is for them to judge that the student is the right fit for them. Because colleges are actually ranked on the number of students that start a degree and complete a degree within 6 years at that institution. So every student that gets there and then decides, this isn't really the place for me, and transfers out, that affects a college's rankings. So really, both sides are equally important. Next one, essays really don't matter. Not true. Like I said, that is the place that a student really has the opportunity. The Yale advisor told my daughter that the college essay is the only place where a student has the opportunity to speak directly to the admissions committee during the admissions process. So they want to take that essay and turn themselves, rather than a collection of numbers, a test score, a GPA, a number of service hours, into a person. And so it really is an important part of the college application. Interviews don't really count, especially when we get into our more competitive schools. Those interviews are conducted by alumni of the school that have a direct connection right back to the admissions department, and what they have to say about those students and how they feel the student might fit into the college culture is extremely important. And so a lot of them will give interviews if the student requests them, but the students should know that that data that they collect during that interview goes right back to their admissions decision. Asking for financial aid hurts a student's chances of admissions. That's probably the most prevalent myth, is that if you tell a school, I can only go here if you give me financial aid, that is somehow going to dissuade a school from actually letting you in. But the thing is that colleges very rarely are the ones that are giving the aid. The aid is usually coming from a federal pool of money or an outside agency. But of course, colleges want to attract the best students. So if they see that a student is academically worthy to go to the school, then they have merit programs, they have scholarships. And if they know that a student actually has financial need, then they actually have extra programs to help those students have access. 2 years ago, our valedictorian at Waco High actually got into Columbia, and he was very worried about being able to afford to go there. And what we really had to tell him is, if Columbia let you in, they will make sure you can afford to go here. And it ended up that he got everything taken care of that he needed to be able to attend. Early decision action is only for legacies or kids who are absolutely sure where they want to attend. Not true. So you can throw yourself into an early action at any school. So if you want to go early action at TCU, you want to go early action at SMU, you can throw yourself into early action. Early decision is really for those students who are motivated and know exactly what school that they're looking at as their first choice, because they want to show that school that they really are invested in getting in there. But legacies, they're not only going to look at students whose parents went there. It is really a wide variety of students that will use that access. Students must have an impressive list of extracurricular activities and community service. Well, while that is one of the parts of the holistic process, that is not the main thing that they are looking at. I used to be the community service council sponsor at the school I taught at. And what I would see students that would do 2 hours with the Ronald McDonald House, and they'd work for 4 hours at the North Texas Food Bank, and then they do 2 hours over here helping at another organization. And I would tell them that's not impressive to anybody. What they're looking for is somebody who says, I'm really interested in this, and then actually shows that they can commit to that and put in some good time for that. Well, if that prevents you from being able to do other things, they're understanding of that. Many of the college applications actually have students break down by activity how many hours per week they spend on that activity and how many weeks per year that goes on. Well, what is always a little suspicious is when they add up all of those hours and they figure that the student can only sleep 1 hour a day and have done all of those things. So they're not looking for who can put the most on there. They're looking for a student to show, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I'm committed to, and that is more impressive. And then finally, admissions officers don't check Facebook. With the advent of social media, you better believe that they are looking to find out as much as they can about the candidates, and it is really easy to type somebody's name into Facebook and see what comes up. And if you're posting things on there that you might not want other people to see, then you should not post them there. And what you want to remember is things that exist on the internet are there forever. So if you have enough skill with research and working with the internet, you can find previous versions of postings and you can see a lot of things and find out a lot about people that they might not want you to know. And then finally, forget attending the top colleges. They're way too expensive. Well, what we actually know is that our top colleges usually have some of the largest endowments, which means they give some of the best scholarship offers to students that they think are worthy. So there's nothing wrong with choosing a school that you think might be a stretch economically and then seeing what kind of package that the school can put together for you. If you apply to a second choice school and you get into both of them, then if it doesn't end up working out for the first one, you always have something to fall back on. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Miss Reed, and she is actually going to explain to you our newest platform that we have purchased for all the students in Waco ISD to use to really help them along with not only this process, but planning their 4-year plan, figuring out their endorsements under House Bill 5, but the parts on here to work with the college planning are really the reason that we were driven to this specific product. So I'm going to turn over to Ms. Reed.
Okay, again, I'm Shantae Reed. I'm the College and Career Prep Counselor with Waco High. And as Dr. McClanahan mentioned, we do have a new platform that we're going to be rolling out across Waco ISD. In fact, it is something that has lived and breathed within Waco ISD in the last couple of years, so it's being reintroduced to some of our teachers and some of our students, which is really great. So a number of our counselors and teachers are excited that this is coming back. But for those students that had not had a chance to use this platform, it's in fact called Career Cruising. I like to consider it to be a one-stop shop. It is an excellent platform where our students can explore their interests, do a few assessments, and one of the documents that you would have received when you walked in, I do encourage that you put that in front of you because that'll also kind of give you opportunity for you to review information as we're talking through this. And so Career Cruising, each student will receive what's called an access card. It will give them actually the login information for Career Cruising, namely a username and a password that has already been predetermined for the student. Typically is that student's first and last name, and it's going to be their Waco High or their university ID number as their password. And so these are already generated. It's not anything that the student actually has to set up for themselves. As a district, we've already generated this information in the system, and we will provide each student with an access card for them to be able to log on. Now, across both schools, there will be an opportunity for our actual rollout plan. So students, you'll begin to hear about this in the next couple of weeks in terms of how you all will use it, as well as how the counselors and the teachers will use it. So stay tuned as to what the steps and the timeline and what the process is going to look like. So what you will find on Career Cruising and what you will see on your handout is there are several different components. Typically, we have students start out with the assessment. This is where students have a chance to really understand and go through that experience of what are my strengths and my interests. There is an actual tool where students can go in and answer questions, 39 questions on the onset, but actually it's about 119 different questions that a student can answer to really get at what am I interested in. It's questions that's going to ask you what type of environment do you like to be in, what type of work do you like to do, what are some of your interests, what do you not like to do, which is really important to be able to understand when you're trying to decide on a college major or even a school that you're thinking about going to. So this tool really does allow you to go in and do what's considered a career matchmaking experience. The questions are pretty straightforward. I've seen where even us as counselors have went through, and you'll see my profile in a few minutes, but we've had the chance to go through and kind of match up and see if are we in the jobs that we're actually supposed to be in today, or does it look totally different? At one point it had me being a historian and a librarian. So they change based on what your preferences are, and things that you continue to be exposed to, you'll have a chance to go through and understand what your strengths and your interests are. And I like to say this is a baseline for students to start to do some further research on the different types of careers as well as the different types of majors. There are other assessments that students will have an opportunity to take. What I like is there's a learning inventory styles preference out there, whether or not you're a visual learner, if you're a tactile learner, and whether or not you're a hands-on learner. And so that's another assessment that students have an opportunity to take. What I like about that is if you're partnering with a teacher and your teacher had access to this information, it allows for you to do differentiated learning in the classroom and or just understanding their students even better in terms of their way of learning. And so there is a learning inventory in here as well. The other part of career cruising is just as in its namesake. It's about exploring your career and your career interests. Here is where individuals have an opportunity to look at the different 16 career clusters that a number of our different academies are kind of based off of, or even when you think about House Bill 5 and the different type of endorsements, those endorsements are set up relative to the different type of career clusters. And so students have an opportunity to really go in and just simply explore. They can do a keyword search and they can look up information to really get more information around that particular career. There's also the opportunity to explore if you have a military interest. I know that we have a number of students across our district that haven't necessarily raised their hand to their counselor, but they may be talking amongst their peers. I may be interested in the military. I don't know anything about it. There's information on this career exploration tool whereby you can go and do further research on the different type of opportunities in the military. What I like about the career exploration as well is that it will provide very specific job descriptions. So if a student is just unsure about what is the responsibility of a vet tech, or what is the responsibility, I want to be a doctor one day, and we're always saying, well, what type of doctor? And so if they need to explore what the specific education requirements are for that career, that information is available. The type of education and training that's required for that particular career is available out here, and oftentimes students are in it to make money, so they want to know, well, how much is this career going to pay? And so you absolutely can see that information as well when you're exploring careers. This is where I've seen in practice with students that they really spend a lot of time. Once they've done that assessment and they kind of understand what their likes and their interests are, they really want to get in there and just play with the tool and understand what are the different type of careers that I've either been hearing about or that I just want to learn more about on my own time. And this is a tool that students can access via laptop, whether at a desktop, or even on their phone. They can go back and access this information, so it's at their fingertips. The other part of this tool is definitely the education piece. So there is a college matching process in here where you can go and you can explore all the different college school profiles that exist within this tool. And so students have an opportunity to simply type in a name. They can type it in by state, and they want to pull all the schools that's in a respective state or region. And they have an opportunity to really explore what is the different type of major that they have, what type of programs that they have. And so they are able to say, okay, here's the career that I'm interested in. Here's the education and training that's required for that career. Now let me see what colleges and universities actually have those type of opportunities that I can study. And so the exploration for colleges and scholarships is a necessary part of this tool that we really want students and parents to really partner up and go through the experience together. The college preparation process is not just the student going through the experience, it's the parent going through the experience as well. And what I like about this tool is that you can sit down with your students and walk through, let's explore these colleges together. All the information is there in terms of the demographics of the school. The information is there in terms of 2-year versus 4-year colleges. If you want to build your college matching tool, all that information is available here, as well as giving you the necessary information. How much is it going to cost? To be able to then do an analysis and or even a comparison. So you'll see in my profile where I went through and I compared a few different schools so that I can understand, well, how much it costs to go to University of Texas at Arlington versus Stephen F. Austin versus Mary Hardin Baylor, or Baylor versus Texas A&M. You can compare that, and that's what you want to be able to do so that you understand what the costs are associated with the schools that you're applying to. The scholarship part is pretty significant as well. Oftentimes I hear from students, Miss Reed, when do I start working on my scholarships? Can I start working on my scholarships as early as a junior or a sophomore? And for me, I'm like, yes, start the research. Let's understand what all of the scholarships are that are available to you. Let's make a list. What's great is you don't have to necessarily make a list. The information is available in Career Cruising where they can build their list of different scholarships that they are interested in. The key part of this whole college application process is really research. And sometimes students are like, well, what do you mean by that? I mean, that means you have to sit down and you really have to explore your interest. You have to know where you're thinking about going to school. But even before you can do that, you kind of have to know what that major may be. And then you start that college review process and just simply understanding, do these colleges offer the types of majors that I'm actually interested in? How much is it going to cost me? And now how can I afford to pay it? And that is through the financial aid process, it's through exploring the scholarships. And again, it's a one-stop shop for all of this information within Career Cruising. And again, this is on the handout that you guys received that really gives you some of the features. So once you've went through the assessment, you understand what you're going to major in, you understand what college you're going to go to. What's great for us on the counselor end and for you is we can now start to track where you are applying to college. So you have an opportunity to go through this tool and keep track of what's considered your personal plan. Every student across Waco ISD will have their plan. You will know where your assessments have been completed at any given time as a counselor or as a teacher. We can log in and see what that student's plan is, where they are in the process. There is a parent portal part of Career Cruising as well, where the parents can log in and see where their students are in the process. And we like this for the purpose of being able to have more fluid conversations with our students. We can go onto Career Cruising, we can inquire to see, well, let's see what colleges you have pulled into your matchmaker. Let's see what colleges you are starting to apply to, so then we can make sure that that process begins sooner than later. And it's an opportunity for also students to kind of go back and track. Oftentimes they're saying, I don't have a calendar. I'm already keeping track of all the things I need to do within my school day and within my classroom. So now you want me to keep track of the college application process? Are you serious? No, I don't want to do that. Help me, Ms. Reed. Can you keep track of it for me? And I'm like, oh no, we have a new tool that's coming, Career Cruising. It's going to track it for you. And so this is a really important piece of it, because now as a student, you actually can feel like you have your own portfolio. You feel like you have your own plan. You feel like you have a little bit more control of the process in terms of where you are in the very beginning stages, albeit if you are a sophomore, a freshman, or even if you are a senior or or a junior. So at this time in the presentation, what I would like to do is simply transition to just give you a live demo that I think will be very helpful for you to kind of see what I've been talking about. So we're going to transition. Okay, so here's Career Cruising. So I did this a few months ago, so I can barely remember some of the things that's in here, but I promise I did go through the same process that I'm asking you all as students to go through. So you will see here on the screen, you have My Plan. There is an opportunity in here for you to build your resume. So you can actually go in here. There's a tool, there's a template in the system where you can build your resume, which oftentimes students think is not required. It sometimes will actually show optional, but I recommend all students have a resume because it, one, makes it easier for your counselor when you need a letter of recommendation. So just keep in mind that that's available. You can actually share your plan with, you can email it out, you can share it with another counselor, and actually we have counselors that are already assigned in here, and then you can also print your plan. But here, so you're going to always see your name, and I think there is an opportunity where you can upload a picture for your profile, so students may have an opportunity to take advantage of that. So here are the assessments. So when you click on assessments, you will see that there is the matchmaker in my skills. There's the ability profiler, which this is actually a 45-minute test that students take. We mostly focus on the matchmaker in terms of your interest and your skills, as well as the learning styles inventory. But if a student is interested in doing an ability profiler test, then that's certainly something that we can set up time for students to go through. And then you also have the learning styles inventory, as I mentioned. So if I'll give you an example, I think I went through and I answered all 116 questions. And so when you look at my career interests and profiles, here is how my career interests were ranked. So they will rank them based on your preference, how you answered the question. And so as you can see, my career interests would either have me working as a professor, a communications specialist, a public policy analyst, a corporate trainer. And if you continue here, it will just continue to list out what are my specific areas of interest, and it allows me to then go in and further explore. The career clusters, they will give me recommendations because I mentioned there were 16 career clusters. So based on how I answered my questions, they're suggesting that I could either go into business management, education and training, and in fact, they said all clusters, which I don't necessarily agree with that. Arts and humanities is not my thing. But I would say that in terms of my career, business management and administration, as well as education and training, is really where my opportunities have landed in my career. So they're not too far off in terms of how these questions were asked, and then how I was then able to answer them to lead to this. They also will say, well, here are my skills. And so they will go through and grade from a very good match to a good match, fair match, or even a questionable match. And so if you will take a look at next to the skills and how I answered those questions, they have A's that lets me know that at some point, if I wanted to be a professor, which I did have a chance to do that, this matches up. So as a student, if I wanted to just explore a little bit more, I can easily click on professor, and then it's going to give me more information about the types of education and training that I then need as a student, if that's the career that I'm going to path that I'm going to go down. Okay. So that gives you a little bit of an idea about that. We're going to go back to assessments. And then the learning styles inventory. So we're going to review my profile. So again, there's a set of questions that I then answer to determine what's my best learning style. And honestly, they change. And the fact is you can go back and complete these assessments several times. It's not a one and done situation. You can always go in and take these assessments, but at least it gives you a good baseline. So in terms of my learning style, it says I have 45% as a tactile learner, auditory learning at about 30%, and then a visual learner. So for me, I am more of a hands-on situational. I'm the type of individual that I like to really, versus sitting in a presentation and listening to the presentation to understand the training of, I'm the type of person that give me the information and then I want to go into the computer and I want to play with it and I want to learn on my own, because that's my best way of retaining information. And so when you start to think about, as being a student in the classroom, how do you learn? I mean, are you used to lecture? Are you used to more hands-on, etc.? And so this is a great tool for you as students to understand, will I take an online class and be pretty successful in it? Or do I need to be in person with a teacher receiving the information in front of me? So I really enjoyed going through this experience, and it's something that's really good for students to kind of go through. So I hope you see that this can be a very, very interactive tool for students to go through. A lot of information has been added to the system to ensure that students have a real-time experience as they're using this tool. So as we go over to education, so here is where students have an opportunity to really explore with not only that college where they're located at, but also the major. And so what I want to share with you is you can build your tool by looking specifically at undergraduate schools, career and technical schools, graduate schools, and then you can compare those together. And so we will, I'll show you mine in a few minutes. So here is where if I wanted to click on, I'll say Texas A&M University, for example. Okay. So then if I click search, they're going to pull up 11 different results because there are several different locations for Texas A&M University. So I am interested in the one in College Station. But what's important for students to understand is that there are several different locations. So it's going to pull up, based on that search, all the information that's connected to it. So if I pull up Texas A&M University, the information that's going to be provided here is relative to the school. The type of school that it is a public state school that is based on semesters. Dr. McClanahan mentioned about the endowment, so a pretty significant endowment here, which means that they do have funding, and I know this through working with that representative, for making sure that their students' financial needs can be met. So that information is here about the school as well. Full-time faculty, part-time faculty, the student ratio, whether a student has a 22-to-1 ratio in the classroom, gives you really good information about that. Their application deadline is here, as well as the number of typical applicants and those students that are accepted. Some very critical data to know when you're really trying to decide the schools that your students may be interested in. So other things on this screen that you can see here, there's academic information, there is the expenses and financial aid in terms of how much it costs as an in-state student versus an out-of-state. So sure, the question may be asked, so Ms. Reed, I can actually go to that school's website and find that same information. That's a true statement. What I like about career cruising is, remember how I said that you can actually compare. So you don't want to have multiple websites open trying to look at all different schools. You can do that all in one tool here. The enrollment gives you a little bit more information about the background of the students that are being enrolled on the campus, the facilities and service, student life, and then about athletics, and then the different majors that are offered. And there is so many different majors at this respective school, but again, the point is to just suggest that you guys, that this information is available in this tool. So once you go in and select a school, you have an opportunity to click Save to My Plan. So every school that you do research on that you're really interested in, you can save it to your plan. And so if I were to go back to my plan, for example, and I looked at my education plan. Well, wrong one, sorry. My education, then you're gonna see that I have schools saved. I have Texas A&M as an example, University of Texas at Austin saved. And then I also have the different majors that I'm interested in. So again, this is already populated under my plan. So the last thing I wanted to share with you that's in this tool is the financial aid. And so there are different, there's a financial aid selector here, there's the federal financial aid. And so if you go to federal financial aid, which for our seniors open up on October 1st, then this gives you information. It's going to point you back to the website being FAFSA.gov in terms of where you actually complete your financial aid, but this just gives you the resources as well as the information necessary to prepare for completing that financial aid. So that's available here. The financial aid selector, this gives you a really good hands-on experience as to what is basically on the application for FAFSA and what is expected for the students to complete. So you can already do some preliminary information here by filling this tool out and then just transferring that information over to your FAFSA application. Okay, so we're gonna go back here, and what I wanna share with you is, let's say that I wanna look up a scholarship. A scholarship that a number of students will look at is the Coca-Cola Foundation, for example. It doesn't come up. If I type in Coca-Cola. So there's the Coca-Cola Scholars Program, the Walmart Scholars Program, a number of different scholarships that's in here you could actually go through and explore. What's great about this tool is if you were to click on the link, then it's going to take you directly to the associated information that you need to know. What are the requirements for that particular scholarship, as well as the dollar amount that's being awarded for that scholarship. So again, another great tool that we actually will be using as counselors to really help our students understand how to go through and do the research. Okay, so that's the tool. This is a pretty good overview, quick overview as to what's available for you in the tool. You have that one-page handout, and like I said, for students, be listening out on your respective campuses for you to hear more about the timeline of the rollout. Any questions before we go back on to the presentation? All right, so we're really excited about it as a district, and so let's just continue on in the presentation as we look to wrap up this evening. So one of the things that you'll learn when you're going through that research is about the two pathways that you all will have a chance to consider when you're choosing a major. There's a liberal arts major pathway. The students will determine what they're interested in, as well as a career-oriented majors. When we say liberal arts, being a writer or journalism, if you're interested in being a teacher and you want to go the route of teaching English literature or even teaching history or sociology, or even just majoring in psychology, if you will, that would be more of a liberal arts type major. If you're thinking business or anything within the STEM field, that's going to be a career-oriented major. So we try to give this information to both parents and students as they're thinking about, well, how do I determine, am my student going to go to a liberal arts college, or is my student going to go to a school that's very much so focused on business, or anywhere within the STEM, being the science, technology, or even engineering and math. And so you just want to be aware that the career cruising tool will help you start to decipher that, especially when you all do the assessments. So when we talk about the college application process, I'm going to bring up my colleague, Brittany Davis, and she is going to talk about this part of the presentation and wrap up for you guys this evening.
Like Shantae said, my name is Brittany Davis. I'm the academic advisor at University High School, and we're just going to talk through the college application process briefly. So the first thing that we're going to break it up by grade level, things to start thinking about. Something that I tell my students all the time is let's talk about college readiness from the first moment you walk in the door freshman year. Some kids need a little bit of encouraging, a little coaxing, and it takes us that long to get us there. But there's a lot of things to consider, and we want to make sure that they're thoughtfully considering each one. So something to be considering in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade is to decide what career, field, or interest. So kind of deciding what area we're going to go into. House Bill 5 really helps us out with that because it helps kids kind of get a taste of what they may be interested in. In 11th grade, we're really going to focus on the top 3 to 5 college choice offerings and degree fields that they're interested in, just starting to narrow down where we're going to go and kind of what we're interested in. In October of 11th grade, we will file financial aid documents. So October 1st, FAFSA opens officially for students, and that's going to be based off 2015 tax returns. Also in 11th grade, we're going to research admissions deadlines. Some of these schools require early action or regular action. A lot of schools, their first deadline will be October 15th. So we're going to start looking at that at 11th grade. We're going to take the ACT and SAT in 11th grade. A lot of the students in the district have the opportunity to take those tests in 11th grade on our campus, as well as opportunity to receive fee waivers to take those throughout the year. And the summer prior to the fall of the 12th grade year, we're going to work on drafting essays for review. So finding something of interest, like Scott was saying earlier, this is not a essay for college, it's a college essay. So something of interest that you can really elaborate on why the school wants to invest in you and why you're investing in the school. And then we're going to work on the Common Application, Applied Texas, and the college-based application processes in the fall of the 12th grade year. For a lot of our students, that's going to be Applied Texas for Texas-based schools, but we're just going to look at that and see how we're going to start those applications, and when the deadlines are for the schools that the kids are interested in. And fall of the 12th grade year, we're going to work on creating a brag sheet, and what that does is it just highlights what the kids have been working on for the last 4 years. For a lot of our students, we try to get that started in the 9th grade, because by the time we get to senior year, they can't really remember what they were doing fall of freshman year. So it just highlights their community service, maybe what extracurriculars they were enrolled in, Key Club, sports, that sort of thing. And then lastly, we're going to prepare for interviews. If that's applicable, that's going to be for our more competitive schools. We're going to send and track our college application by the deadline. So the first part of that is going to be submitting it through the Common App or through Apply Texas, and then following up to make sure that they're receiving that and that we're completing the outstanding requirements for those applications. We're going to send high school transcripts, and that's part of just making sure that the schools are receiving the requirements that they're asking for and following up with them. We're going to select teachers and counselors to submit letters of recommendation. That kind of ties back into our brag sheet. If we have a paper for students that highlights kind of their areas of interest, what they've been doing for the last 4 years, it makes it a lot easier for the teachers and counselors to write really detailed and thoughtful letters of recommendations for our students. And then we're going to keep checking in for our application decision, and that's going to be late fall, early spring of 12th grade year. Okay, and how can parents increase success for our students? Help your child make a plan and stick to it. How can we space these things out and prepare them freshman through senior year so that we're thoughtfully considering this each year as they're progressing closer and closer to senior year? Ask your child where he or she is in the college process. Sometimes that extra little nudge is enough for them to come and see us in the counselor's office to say, okay, I don't know what to do, or I'm stuck in the Apply Texas, or can you make sure that this is submitted, or can you follow up, make sure my transcripts have been sent, that sort of thing. Assist your child in refining his or her choice or program of college. This is a really good one because sometimes it ends up really broad. Like he was saying, undecided is always an option, but it helps them narrow down in their school choice if they know what they want to do. I tell my students it's kind of like shopping for a car. If you know kind of what you're interested in, that can help us in finding a college that's going to be best for you and preparing you for whatever is after college. Make financial aid data available to your child to ensure timely filing of financial aid forms. They can't do this part without you. It requires your tax returns. We can help them with that at school. We have the MAP program that comes in and helps students, or you can do it from home, but that's a biggie for us. Schedule college visits. It's one thing for them to take a virtual tour online. It's another for them to step foot on campus. A lot of students are interested in really big schools, and then they step on campus and they realize not for them. So that can be a make or break for college decisions. Ensure that deadlines are clearly posted and your child adheres to them. This is for a lot of our top schools. For the ones that have early action and early decision, if you miss that deadline, they're no longer looking at your student. Ask questions if your child needs guidance. That's what we're here for. We would love to answer your questions at the school. If you'd like to come up and meet with us, we're willing to do that too. And we have after school sessions sort of like this so that we can talk to you individually about your students' concerns or make sure that we can individualize a plan for you.